Have you ever wondered how nearly 2 billion people see the world? Well, today we're going to crack open the operating system of Islam, the core ideas that literally shape everything from daily rituals to a global vision for justice. So let's start with a big question. What if just one single powerful idea could act as the blueprint, the fundamental code for how an entire civilization thinks about reality, purpose, and even justice? It's a huge thought, and it's right at the heart of what we're exploring. To get our heads around that, we have to start with the why. Every solid worldview has that one central concept that everything else hangs on. It's the anchor. And for Islam, that idea is an absolute game changer. And here it is. That one idea is called Tawheed. Now, this isn't just about believing in one God. It's way deeper. It's this strict, absolute conviction that God is uniquely and indivisibly one. Think of it like the master key that unlocks every single other concept in the Islamic worldview. Seriously, some scholars call it the primary blueprint for all reality. And this seemingly simple idea has a massive consequence. It draws a super sharp line in the sand. You have the creator and you have the creation. They are two totally separate, fundamentally different categories of being. The creator needs nothing. Everything else, and I mean everything, from galaxies down to you and me, is completely dependent. This isn't just some theological detail. It completely reframes your place in the cosmos. Okay, so if that's the basic structure of reality, the next logical question is, how are you supposed to actually live in it? And that brings us to the guiding blueprint, the how of it all. So this blueprint comes from two sources that are designed to work together, kind of like a lock and key. You've got the Qur'an, which is seen as the direct, literal word of God. That's the what. It lays out all the core beliefs and principles. But how do you actually apply that stuff in your day-to-day life? Well, that's where the Sunnah comes in. That's the example of the Prophet Muhammad. It's the how, the living, breathing, practical application. You really can't have one without the other. And look, this isn't something that was tacked on later. The Qur'an itself points to the Prophet's example. This verse makes it absolutely crystal clear that following the Sunnah is considered an essential part of the divine guidance. So for example, the Qur'an might say, pray, but it's the Sunnah that shows you how to pray, the movements, the words, the timings. It gives you the context, it provides that real-world model, and it basically acts as the vital bridge between this divine text and our human reality. So we have the why, Tawheed. We have the how, the Quran and Sunnah. This system naturally pivots to the next big question, the who. Who are we in this grand design? What's our purpose? Islam has this really fascinating take on human nature, and it all revolves around this concept of fitra. The best way to think about it is like our spiritual DNA, or our soul's factory settings. The idea is that every single person is born pure, with this built-in compass that naturally points toward truth, goodness, and recognizing God. It's a total flip from the idea of original sin. And when you recognize that inner goodness, it's meant to lead you to a state called ubudiyya. Now, I know the word servitude can sound, well, pretty negative to our modern ears, but in Islamic thought, it's seen as the highest possible honor. And the logic is actually pretty powerful. By consciously serving the one true creator, you are freed from being a slave to everything else. Your ego, your whims, what other people think. It's framed as the ultimate path to freedom. The absolute peak of this whole spiritual journey is a state called ihsan, spiritual excellence. It's basically a state of constant, beautiful God consciousness. It's when your inner heart and your outer actions are in perfect sync. You strive for excellence and beauty in everything you do, because you're living with this deep certainty that you are always in the presence of the divine. So you can see this clear path laid out, right? It's a journey that starts with remembering your pure origins, moves into a life of meaningful purpose, and aims for this incredible state of constant excellence. And that brings us to the final and honestly the most critical part of this whole operating system, the what. What does all this theology, the why, the how, the who, what does it actually produce in the real world? What's the output? And the answer is just completely unambiguous. It has to produce action. In this worldview, doing good in society isn't some optional add-on, like an accessory you can choose to wear. No, it's considered an integral, non-negotiable part of faith itself. Your personal devotion is seen as incomplete if it doesn't spill out and create tangible good for others. I mean, just look at this verse. It's one of the most famous in the Qur'an, often recited in weekly sermons all over the world. It frames justice and good conduct not as nice suggestions, but as direct commands from God. It's part of the core job description. And the idea of justice is super rich. It's often broken down into two key terms, adl and qist. You can think of adl as justice on a personal level, being fair, impartial, giving people what they're owed. But qist is bigger. It's about social equity. It's this idea of a shared project to make sure our systems and structures are fair, so that everyone in society actually gets their fair share. It's both a personal and a collective duty.
And this is not some passive, abstract notion of justice. Just check out these dimensions. It's seen as something woven into the very fabric of the universe. It demands radical impartiality, even if it means standing against your own family. It applies to everyone, meaning you have a duty to help anyone who's oppressed. And get this, it includes the incredibly difficult job of speaking truth to power, which is called one of the noblest things a person can do.
Wow, this one really makes you pause, doesn't it? The bar is set unbelievably high. You are commanded to be just even to people you hate or people who hate you. In this view, justice isn't about your feelings. It's a core requirement of being a person of faith, period. So as you can see, it all connects. It's one coherent system. The belief in one, perfectly just God, that's Tawheed, it logically flows into a life mission of purposeful servitude, Ubudiyah. And that mission is basically meaningless unless it shows up in the world as an active struggle for justice and equity, adl and qist. Each piece drives the next. It's a complete package. And that brings us right back to where we started. It's the engine of this worldview, plain and simple. So it leaves us with one last really important question to think about. If a belief system held by nearly a quarter of all people on Earth insists that what you believe and what you do are inseparable, what does that really mean for our shared future? It's definitely something worth mulling over.